now 6 o'clock, and we're calling this meeting to order. Visitors' remarks sign in with visitors wishing to make comments in today's meeting prior to the meeting. You should have already signed in. So, okay. First item on the agenda is consideration and action to approve the minutes from September 16th, 2024, Planning and Zoning meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from September 16th.
I second. I second.
And the what? All in favor? Say nay or yay or a.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so and all opposed? And so the meeting was approved. Next item, the consideration and action to approve the preliminary and final plat of Valencia Estates subdivision.
Should I address you as Mr. Sherman or Larry or
You can call me Henry.
Henry? Okay, do I have the wrong person? No, Larry's next door. Okay, I'm new, of course, you know, and please bear with me, okay? But hitting the action item number 2, I've got concerns that I want to express before we put this to a vote.
And we let the people that have signed up to talk first.
Oh, okay, you want the people that signed up first? They go first? Yeah, okay.
They can go first and
And then,
then
okay.
there can be questions.
Yeah, this being my first rodeo, you know, with all due respect, you know, bear with me.
Not a problem.
Right. First on the list is Mr. Keeler.
Mr. Keeler, speak. It's on, it's online, so we have to have, yes, sir, sorry. Okay.
All right, I'm not a property owner. I have lived in Los Fresnos virtually all my life. When I was in high school, we went down this road before it was even Caliche. It was a dirt road. That's where the high school seniors used to go drink beer behind Valencia subdivision in that area. The reason I'm here is we're very concerned about the flooding, the concentration of homes, and all the other things that have been planned for there. First of all, in the 1980s, we had a 20-inch rain in less than 24 hours. Not one single home in Los Fresnos was flooded. Since the 80s, we've had a lot of development. And development that's done wrong causes future problems. And we're not saying it shouldn't be developed, but it's got to be it's got to be developed right. In June, on 18, 19, 20, 21, June 2018, we had 17.5 inches. My wife keeps it every day. And she has a record for 15 years back in this area. And the whole back of Valencia was completely flooded. And other than the first couple of lots that came into their backyards. A year later, June 2019, we had 8.75 inches over 2 days, and it came from the front. Now, the field had been watered, it was less rain, but the problem is the speed at which it came. And that's the picture that you see in front of you. It came all the way up within 2 inches of Rocky's house. But it also flooded the front yards of the ones behind it. The backyard flooding is an issue that must be addressed, And the front yard flooding is an issue that must be addressed. Rocky and I have come to the city council on multiple occasions requesting that a big ditch be cut there and cut to the Resaca. In over 5 or 6 years, we've seen no effort done by the city. What has to be done before you do any approval of development, you've got to get this right, fellows. Now, regarding the flooding issue, if I have time, I'll get back to that. You also have an issue in compatibility of development. There was a phase one to that subdivision years ago, and 9 lots were made in front. They're average 125 by about 165. They go from 170 to 155. Around 162 is the average. There's 20,600 square feet average lot. Behind them are 65 by 100 foot lots at 6,500 feet. You can put 3.2 of those little lots behind them in each one of those lots. This isn't right for the people that developed. When you set a standard for development, you got to protect the people that initially started that development. And the standard was set 15 years ago. I don't know what was proposed back there. I heard half-acre lots. It may be all different now, and apparently it's been it's coming up for re-subdivision. But you got to have lots that are compatible to the investment that was made initially. And that needs to be addressed. And I'm suggesting it doesn't have to be the same. Those are very big lots. But you get lots up to 85 feet, 125 feet in depth. You've got lots you can put a 2,000 square foot house on, and you can put a 2-car garage. And that's what those people deserve. Lots that are big enough to be compatible and won't detract from the investment they made. The 65 by 100 foot lots are going to give you starter homes, 1,300 square foot at best, brick veneer homes with a 1-car garage. The garage is the first thing within 2 or 3 years they get closed up, and you got cars all over the street. That needs to be reevaluated on how to do that. Another thing that needs to be addressed is the infrastructure on the road. The road is not designed to take care of it. I'm not saying the road has to be done before the development started, but in time the city's got to commit to make that road compatible to another 100 and plus homes, or 90, whatever you wind up with. Furthermore, for 8 years we've been talking about a sidewalk over there. Forget the word sidewalk. Let's talk about a cheap shoulder extension. There's kids that go up and down there. There's people that ride bikes all over Henderson Road. There's people that go walking. And we've been trying to get, if you put an 8-foot shoulder, you don't have to comply with the Americans Disability Act. You can make it to where a wheelchair will go nicely. You only have one street to cut the curb and facilitate a wheelchair up and down. But all that needs to be addressed because there'll be a whole lot more population of kids going to and from school. And it's a narrow road and it's dangerous as it is. Now, how do we correct the drainage? The engineer has proposed, oh, that's not my time yet? That's 5 minutes? I'll give you the answers if you can give me another 5 minutes. There's ways to correct this, but I burned up my 5 minutes. I'll wait till everybody's finished and I'll come back. Thank you, sir.
I forgot to mention that everybody can speak today only has 5 minutes, and if somebody wants to relinquish their 5 minutes, then
No, you can't do that, but you can't ask questions later. So there can be questions that are asked. So,
I'll be happy to answer questions later. I got my grades all for you.
next in line is located. Yeah, that's right.
Good afternoon. Oh, hey, Mark, how are you? Good. Good afternoon. So my name is Roque Villafranca, and my home address is 215 Henderson Road. That's my property. And the photos that you see there, those are the front porch, the front yard of my house. So we've come to the city several times, and we've talked about the flooding problems that we had there in Henderson Road in the past. Not only about that, the community is expanding and it's growing and it's good for the community, but we need to make sure that we plan right. Because from the research that I did, if one house floods, it's the equivalent of the whole area being considered a flood zone. It doesn't matter if 1, 10, 20 houses flood. Now, as you guys can see those pictures, they're very specific. I mean, I picture tells 1,000 words, like they say. And there's no way of denying that we have flooding problems here with that picture. I'm sure everybody would agree. We brought up in the past what Mr. Killer here said about building a ditch on the south side of Henderson Road, moving east towards Paredes, so that the water can reroute and go back to the actual Resaca. I recently built a 2-car garage behind my house, and it took me 30 truckloads of field dirt to build that car garage properly. That back there, that area that it's selling right now, is definitely a hole, and it hasn't been fixed. With rain, it will flood, and the people that buy those lots will pay the price. If we're gonna grow, we need to do it right, gentlemen. We need to work on properly expanding that road, Henderson Road, making space for children that walk there, that at night you can't even see them. It's dangerous for the community, for our children, everybody's children. My kids are grown up, but I'm concerned for the community. Gentlemen, that's why I'm here telling you guys, do it right. We don't have a tragedy. We don't want a tragedy right now. We've had tragedies in that road before. A vehicle had to go into a Resaca there for us to expand that road, to make space for our families to drive there safely. And it's sad when we end up in those situations where people die, and they don't have to die. They don't have to die if we do it right, if we plan things right, if we expand the roads, if we grow the community properly, if we're responsible with the decisions that we make. Because as we all know, we're all responsible for our children, not only one or two. But the people that run it, you guys, are the ones that are in control of making sure that our children are safe. If we're gonna grow, if we're gonna build those houses, let's do it right. Let's do it appropriately. Let's have deed restrictions for everybody here who bought 18, 20 years ago, like me, can have a nice neighborhood for the community to look up to. That's all we're asking. We're not asking for anything that is not fair. We're asking to take care of the community, to do it right, to take care of the flooding that we have, to take care of that road, because we need to grow with infrastructure just like we grow with the community. That is it. It's nothing that it's unfair, that it's out of hand. We just want it to be done right. That's all we're asking. And that flood can affect everybody. If it floods, if my house, which came inches from flooding, would have flooded, everybody would have been paying higher interest, or not interest, insurance on property for flood insurance. The community deserves better. That's all I'm saying. And I think you guys can make a difference. And we expect you guys to make a difference for the community, because you guys are the elected officials to make that difference. Planning, making sure that the plans are done right before anything can be done back there. I don't think it's anything unfair that we're asking from you guys, other than what you guys signed up to do, to take care of the community. If I have a minute or two, I would pass it on to Mr. Killer here. I can? Well, then I would like to talk about deed restrictions. We would like to see deed restrictions. We want to see how big those houses are, so that they're compatible to the houses that are already there, so that we can feel comfortable with the fact that the people that are going to be living there are going to be having a house that's compatible to what we have. Definitely, we want to see those deed restrictions. A 2,000 square foot home, which is the size of my house, is very doable, even if they have to grow up on a 2-story. 2-car garage. If there's going to be fencing, what type of fencing? Restrictions in regards to neighbors. How far do they build from the neighbors? The front to the back, 40 feet or whatever it is that they're going to be having in front. Being able to park those cars inside their garage instead of on the sidewalk, which would also create havoc there for children walking around. All those are safety concerns that I believe each and every one of us here as parents have. And it's fair to bring them up to you guys, for you guys to make sure that whoever's building back there does the right thing for the community. Because it's not only about going from 60 to 120 or 130 lots, it's about doing it right. If they can do the same thing with less and make the same amount of money, why not? And it is doable from what Mr. Killer showed me. He showed me some plans where it can work. Thank you, gentlemen. I won't take more of your time.
Everyone, and my name is Miriam Peña. I live in 211 Henderson Road. I wrote it down, so hopefully I can read. We moved to Los Fresnos plus 10 years ago to give our children an opportunity and a better education and a peaceful community. We found a beautiful home on Henderson Lane. It has palm trees, greenery, and a view of trees and a blue sky. We understand that in the future, homes will be built behind our peaceful home. We knew that these homes were to be built in lots with the same dimensions as ours. We hear that a proposal, of course, to cram hundreds of houses behind our home has been submitted. And I would like to say that we are not in agreement. We understand that people are trying to make money, but at what expense? You are hurting the land and our community. The biggest worry is having these houses so close to each other that if a fire breaks out, like a domino effect, they will all burn. Our roads are not equipped for the hundreds of vehicles that will be traveling around this area. Los Fresnos has several undeveloped subdivisions around town with the same tiny concept of homes, and we don't need any more. One might say that, well, if you don't like it or you're not comfortable here, you may move or find another peaceful community. But I say I do love it here and I want to stay here and live here to retire in peace. It's not easy to find or to modify a handicap accessible home, so I please ask that you consider these new plans and keep the original plans that you had. They are mentioning, people walking around or on our street. I walk my little dog. She doesn't want to, we have the big yard, but she wants to go outside the yard. I walk, from 2 houses down to the left, to the right, and cars go by and they don't slow down. As they see me in my wheelchair walking with my dog, they don't slow down. So, and you know that street is pretty narrow. Yes, it does need work. And, I will, of course, I agree with everything Mr. Keeler said, and of course what Rocky said as well. And if you can please, take that into consideration. And if we can go back to the original plans to have like bigger lots, bigger homes, so that it doesn't depreciate the value of our homes as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else want to talk? Analia Arguez? Arguez?
Can you hear me? I have a pretty loud voice. Well, I'm coming here, I'm fairly new. My name is Analia Arguez. I live on 221 Henderson Road. I have less time than them in that property, less than 10 years, about 10 years. I loved my property once I bought it, and I'm talking to you as an owner, as a parent of 2 young children, and as an educator. So because of that, as an owner, the same concerns that they have in regards to the proximity of the homes, the size of the lots, I looked at the plans and I'm like, 2.5 homes would be right in back of my house. And that would depreciate the value of my home. I live on the edge right next to the railroad tracks, so the traffic would be pretty much 120 homes built in that area coming in and out. The road in front of us, Henderson Road, is extremely narrow. Like cars literally kind of bump, and when there's parades and things like that, it gets really crowded. Even cutting the grass, I know it's like very steep. Just like the other gentleman, Mr. Roque, I had to add dirt in the back of my home. Even already with a fence, I did add more dirt. I had to bring truckloads so it wouldn't flood. So that is a concern as well. I have called the city as well in regards to sewage issues. They send people and they're like, oh, that's normal. And there's a lot of smell. And I believe it's because I'm at the end of the zone, at the end of the houses. And everything, what they said to me was like, oh, it's because everything has to go through and you're at the very end. And I'm like, but it shouldn't smell like that. I open my faucets and we have that smell. So I'm assuming it's pertaining to the same issues of the drainage and the sewage and the flooding that it can cause. And that's my concern as an owner. As a parent, I have 2 young children, 12 and 15. They're outside, they're constantly outside, and that narrow road is an issue. And having about 120 homes in back of us with one road exiting out, like, that is very dangerous, and that is a concern. Kids walking, I see them walking from the high school, walking to school. I mean, they have to get out of the way into people's property to be able to walk and get to their homes. And that is a concern as a parent and as an educator. I'm an elementary teacher, and so I do see a lot of the safety issues that were addressed from the other gentlemen and lady. Those were some of my concerns, like, you know, the walking, the very narrow streets, the flooding in the back, that has become an issue. And I hope that, I hadn't brought it up because I'm fairly new to everything, but I didn't think it was normal for my house to have that smell. And now that they kind of brought it up, and I'm like, well, you know what, it could be related to those issues, suicide issues that area may have. So just like I would like also to know what are the restrictions of whatever they're building in the back, because I did see the map, and that's a lot of homes. So hopefully they can take into consideration that if they do, or when they build, it is bigger homes, and they do take into consideration our value and what we invested in that community. It is very peaceful, it is very tranquil, and we'd like to kind of keep it that way. Thank you.
I apologize for being late, but is there anyone else that? That's it. Okay, thank you, everyone. I guess we go into the action items. This, I guess, is.
Yeah, can I address?
Yes, go ahead.
And Mr. Delgado, if you have something else to add to what's already been, maybe you could do that, because if we could get all of those items, well, then my recommendation would be to take no action tonight so that we can address some of these issues and come back at another time with answers to these, because we won't have those answers for you tonight. But I think all of the questions need to be out, or concerns out on the table. So if you had any, because you had mentioned at first that you had some concerns.
Yes, I'm new here, okay, as you all know, of course. And I want to express my thoughts, my feelings, my concerns having to do with this Valencia subdivision that's in the planning, okay? We're planning and zoning. And what our responsibility is here, gentlemen, of course, as you all know, is to make sure that the planning is done correctly, okay? And from what I'm seeing off of the package that I got this package Friday at about 1:30, okay? And I got a text that said for me to digest it, to read it, and if I had any questions, to bring them up. Well, by the time I opened it up and started looking at it, it was already like 3:30, close to 5 o'clock. And I said, I'm not going to have time to reach out there and ask questions and get answers. So what I did is I looked at it again on Saturday, okay? And Saturday, I said, well, I'm gonna walk this this plan that they have in place for the subdivision and check it out, okay? Being new to this, I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So I went out there and I start walking the field, and this is looking at the map, this is on the west side. As I'm walking the field towards the back, I start hitting water, okay? And I said, well, wait a minute, you know, this must be a low plain area, you know, that must flood. So I kept walking, and the water was getting deeper up to my ankles, and I back off, and I said, let me look at this. So I look at it, and I said, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and talk to these people that live on Henderson, that probably have a little more knowledge than I do regarding what takes place back here in this area, okay, that's fixing to be developed, okay? The first couple that I ran into was Mr. Rodriguez, okay? And Ms. Letty and Gustavo, okay? And I walked up to him and I said, I introduced myself and I said, look, I'm here with planning and zoning for Los Fresnos and this project is coming about and do you guys know about it? And they said, well, we've heard of them developing this field and we were told that they were gonna be building 1.5 acre lots back there, you know, for development, for residential. And I said, well, I don't know who you talked to, but in this plan here, there's no lot that says it's going to be 1.5 acres, okay? On the contrary, the lots right directly behind these people that live on Henderson, the lots are 65 foot wide by 100 foot deep. How big of a house can you build there? And what this is going to do for these people that have these nice luxury houses here on Henderson, it's going to depreciate their value of the houses, okay? So if we have some kind of control that we can talk to the developer and say, look, these lots are way too small. You build a house next to each other on a 65 foot, as you can see on the drawing here. I don't think you're looking at the right one there, Robbie, but these houses are going to be so close that in my mind, it would be a fire trap, okay, with all due respect. If there's a fire on one of these houses, the rest are just going to continue on like a domino effect and catch on fire. If the wind's blowing from the north, all these houses that are sitting out here on Henderson are going to catch on fire. Everybody that put all their money, all these residential people that put all their money on these houses, these nice luxury houses, you know, are going to lose them, okay? So we need to do something about that, you know? Don't have houses so close, built so close to each other. So anyway, I continued walking down this neighborhood, and a lot of the people that are here today are the people that I talked to, okay? Every one of them told me that the field in the back floods, okay? And the water comes up. I made these pictures and I passed them out to people, and one of the pictures there is Mr. Rocky's house, that the flood water came close to getting into his house. And the other house next to his house, or the last house, is the lady over here, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry? Yes, her house also flooded, or came close to flooding. That same time that Rocky's house was getting close to getting flooded. Now, on that note, as far as water flooding, the subdivision that's proposed to be developed, that water has, that subdivision has what they call a detention pond that is proposed drainage, it's a detention pond dedicated to Cameron County Drainage District, okay? This detention pond, people, is only gonna hold so much water, in my mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, you know, I'm not an engineer, but it's only gonna hold so much water. And the way I look at it is like, picture yourself at home, you put a glass of water there in front of the table, on the table, you get a pitcher of water, and you pour that water in this glass, and you overfill that glass, that water is gonna run out, and it's gonna flood the table, right? Well, that table, picture in your mind, being this subdivision that they wanna build, okay? It has no place to go other than coming up to Henderson and hitting these houses that are up here on Henderson. So this problem needs to be addressed to where we can drain this water down to a different location once this drainage pond gets full. It's only going to be able to hold so much water, okay? So we need to address or have the engineers look at it and have something put together so that the water, once that drainage pond gets full, it runs somewhere else to where it doesn't run into these neighborhoods or runs right back into this subdivision, okay? So, that being said, you know, I think we need to, instead of approving this, I think we shouldn't have it as a preliminary and final, you know, to approve. I think we need to have this as a preliminary first, work all the issues and concerns, and then at a later date, come with a final and finish it off.
I'll step in there. You don't want to approve a preliminary if you're going to change the final. A preliminary, the final has to be substantially close to what the preliminary is. So for what you're wanting to happen, you wouldn't want to do that. You would want to take no action tonight because a final plat has to be very similar, only minor changes from the preliminary. So you don't use a preliminary approval to then make drastic changes. So my suggestion is if you got concerns, let's go back to the engineer to give you some answers to your questions, go back to the developer, and then come back with a preliminary. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, it does make sense,
Okay.
yes, to come back with a preliminary.
Yes, because
Yeah, and digest it again.
'Cause-
And you know, another thing, excuse me, another thing that I noticed on here is that it states here that there's alleys, okay, on the subdivision. You no longer see any alleys in any development, okay? And if they do away with these alleys and add the footage on these alleys to these lots, it's gonna make these lots bigger, okay? These alleys here in Los Fresnos, in places where I've lived, are just, they just create brush and no one maintains them and cleans them up. You know, it's just more work for the city. And alleys used to be for garbage trucks to go by or go through to pick up the garbage. The garbage now is put up in front, okay? So why have an alley on this? And that's one of the issues that I think needs to be worked out on this. Do away with the alleys, you know?
can I address a couple of things?
Sure.
The drainage, we will get the engineer to show you the capacity of the detention. The water drains to the north. When the flood happened in 1819, it was due to problems with the tiles underneath that go to the east under the railroad and also to the north under the irrigation canal. Those were resolved through Cameron County Drainage District number 4. And so they have looked at the capacity and the drainage and feel comfortable with those numbers. Don't have those, so I can't tell you to give the audience that, to give you all that. So we'll get that information, but it does not drain to the south, it drains north. So we can address that. As far as the alleys, they're not alleys, they're gonna be easements, and there's 2 of them have to be there. Number 1 is for it to drain properly, and number 2, the existing homes that are there, when those were developed, the sewer line was put in the rear. So there's no other way except for it to end up being an easement. And so I don't want to take care of easements or alleys, either one, but there's no other way because of the way they did this, the first lots that are there now with them in the rear. So that's a couple things, and I can address with the engineer those and come back next time with you with that, as well as the engineer, and deal with some of these issues.
Sounds good. Yeah, and like, I just want to reiterate that, yeah, these people that came here today, picture yourself, gentlemen, in their position as far as owning a house right there where they're at, and getting this flood water coming into their house. They put their lifetime investments into a house, which we all do, you know. I know that my house, you know, I put all my time and effort and making money to where I have the house that I have now, and I would be pretty disappointed if planning and zoning in my community didn't do anything about it to help the issue to avoid my house going under, literally going under with flood water. You know. Thank you.
Mark, I have one more. I live in this area, and my first reaction was the value of the homes. And I believe that we should maintain the same status of the property owners that live in this area. All of Henderson Road, west of the tracks, everybody's homes are, I want to say off the bat, maybe half an acre more or more homestead, their size of homes or the areas that they live in. So for me, the priority would be maintaining the same status quo as far as the value of homes. If you come in and put, and this is just an exaggeration, 100 homes in 2 acres of land, it doesn't make sense. And we just want, I'm looking at maintaining the same value, size of homes in that area. And also, we've covered, I don't want to belabor the other points because I know Mark will help take care of it. And at this point, I just, as far as I'm concerned, is maintaining the same value of homes.
Well, that being said, I'm sorry. Go.
Please. Does anyone else from the public, from the audience, wish to speak any more onto this? I will let you speak.
I would speak more, but I used up my minutes.
I'll let you have 5 more minutes.
Okay. The holding pond has been mentioned. Okay. Sorry. The holding pond has been mentioned. You got 30 acres of land. You take a 12-inch rain that gives you 30 acre feet of water, and you put in a 1.5 acre holding pond, that 30 feet of water still becomes about 20 feet of water, or 22 feet. The water has to get out of that holding pond. The bottom line is there's some old corrugated field drains that are meaningless. And when you talk to Water District number 6, they can be opened up, but there's no drainage ditch to take them. Mark is absolutely right. It goes to the north. And going to the north doesn't solve the problem if there's no drainage ditch to the north on the other side of the canal and the railroad track. There's some lowland there, and it's just going to fill that up. So that really has to be, getting to the ditch is another situation. What I'm suggesting to you guys is the real drainage for all of this area is the Ospo lakes that have been there for 1,000 years. We now call them resacas. And that's the biggest holding pond and better than any drainage ditch if you can get the water to the resaca. And if you just look at this, these are the 9 lots you're talking about. This is the property across the street. This has got a 2-foot fall right here. The lowest point is right here in front of Rocky's house. And this is higher, but it falls to this direction. But I don't care, and relatively, this is high land. It's 27 to 30 feet. Some of it's even up to 33 feet. That's higher than 80 to 90% of the city. But you can be on top of a volcano and be 10,000 feet in the air, but if you got a rim around you and you want to build a subdivision in that volcano, you better drill a hole through the perimeter to get that water out, or you're going to get flooded. You need to confirm with Drainage District Number 4 that all the water from that holding pond can be extracted and taken out on the other side of the canal in the railroad. But there's an alternative. The same property owns this side over here. You also have flooding that comes this way with a good cut ditch all the way down to the railroad track and reverse that to where from the holding pond you go to the south. This person can drain, let me see if I got enough. Here we are over here. They own this property here. Here's the tracks. And they can drain both sides, take both problems. Here's the holding pond. And this could be run down right to the Resaca and be the cheapest way and the best way, no matter how much rain you have. And you can take a 20-inch rain and it'll still work. And if it's designed right, and they design both parts of properties together, this may be 5 years in the future. You can then put the main drain pipe to serve both sides. We used to own this property. We also looked at the property across the street and had offered on it one time. We knew the problem back there. Don't think it can be solved that easily. But if you take and bring the water this way into the Resaca, you've got the biggest holding pond in South Texas, because that's a 100-mile-long Resaca, or pretty darn close to it. All
Thank
right,
you, thank you, Mr. Keeler.
got some other facts if you want.
Well, we don't need any more facts.
You got enough? Okay.
I want to thank everybody for coming to this meeting. We're going to listen to your concerns, and we're going to table this item. We're just going to let them come up with a new plan, and we will readdress it all.
I did not sign up. No, you can. Okay. Good afternoon to everybody. First of all, how long have you been living where you live?
18 years.
18 years. How much did you pay for the lot?
For the lot. 18 years ago, it was $30,000.
Beautiful, $30,000. Where can I buy a lot that is half an acre for $30,000 in the city?
So obviously,
No,
let me answer because of course you asked. So obviously, the times have changed.
Yeah.
Now, a half-acre lot might go for 4. Right, you can find it for 4. Maybe not.
In the city? In the city?
Yeah, maybe outside of the city.
No, in the city. We're talking, the issue here is the city. We're not out of the city. We're in the city.
So in the city, you can. But then,
No. Tell me a price that I can pay for half an acre land
so
in the city.
half-acre lot, I haven't moved that around with assessments. But I'm sure in communities that are not of the you can find it for 30,000.
Okay. Okay, well, okay, okay.
Let's say Laureles.
We're talking about Los Fresnos. We're not in Laureles, no. This is the main thing, that we keep moving around, blaming everybody, blaming these issues that happened 20 years ago, that probably were not done right. Maybe he wasn't here. Maybe some of these people were not here. It's not their fault. Today's date, we're trying to do it right.
Well, the problem is that from what you guys are presenting.
No, hold on, let me get to that point. No, have you talked to the engineer?
We really need to.
Let me finish
Wait
it.
a second, guys. Robbie,
Order,
you need to have him, if he wants to make a statement, he can make a statement. There's no use to dialogue.
The bottom line,
He didn't dialogue back when y'all were talking, so.
the bottom line is that today's date, any lot that is 60 by 100 is gonna cost you $50,000 to $60,000 right now in Brownsville and Los Fresnos. Back then, if you bought the lot for $30,000 and you build the house, you end up paying maybe $120,000 overall for the house. Tell me where in the city of Los Fresnos I can find a new house for $120,000. I can't. The salary of the employees in Los Fresnos, the average, person makes 40,000. The teacher that spoke a few minutes ago, I'm pretty sure she makes about 50,000, 40,000. She cannot afford, for us to build a lot for half an acre of land and a house for 2,500 living area, we will have to sell the house for $500,000. Who in Los Fresnos, give me at least 20 or 50 people that can afford a $500,000 house with an average salary?
You're assuming, sir.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay, well then,
Please, please.
I'm saying the numbers. This is we're going by market value, man. We're not going by personal opinion. I'm pretty sure in Los Fresnos, there's a lot of wealthy people that can afford $500,000 and more. But the average person that works in the school, in Walmart, in H-E-B, makes 35,000, 50,000, 60,000, and that's the most they can afford. I'm sorry. That's the real market. If you go to Brownsville, it's even worse. But we're not the bad guys. We're coming here to invest more than $10 million. And those issues that you had with those houses, with the flooding that I saw the picture, we are working with the engineer, our engineer, and with the engineer that the staff Los Fresnos has to correct those issues and fix those problems that you guys have. We're not the bad guys. And with all the respect, it sounds like you guys are punishing me and our developers for something that wasn't done right 20 years ago. And we're not here to do that. And to get it right, to finish my 5 minutes, building those houses in the back of your houses will not depreciate the value of your houses, because those houses are gonna be selling for $250,000, $260,000, $280,000, up to $300,000. Now, if I'm selling a house for $300,000, you multiply the square footage for your house, and your value will increase a lot more. Now, if I put mobile homes in the back, with all the respect for those people that live in mobile homes, yes, I will depreciate your value and your home. But we're not building mobile homes. So, there's issues there. There was issues that were not fixed 20 years ago. Do not punish us.
Mr. Walter, can I respond to the real dilemma here?
No, it's,
Thank you.
it's
Thank you very much.
6:48. Public comments is over. Move on to action item number 1.
They did that.
Okay.
We're on to consider an action in my recommendation.
We weren't in public comments.
Take no comment.
Okay.
They were making public comments under that action item. They can do it. Sorry.
Apologize. No, my bad. All right, well, do I need to take a motion to table this? Just, do we need a motion for that?
Unless you'll know. I would imagine it would fail if you put it to a vote, but take no action. I'll take these to get the developer and see what he wants to move.
Okay, well, we're not gonna move on this at all. They're gonna take any action. This meeting is adjourned.